Hello again, everybody, here on Sports Chat with On Community Media. It is July 14th, 2026. Jeff is a little busy with his lines for his show for this upcoming Friday. Friday is the big night, so he was not able to make Sports Chat. So I got Brady and Nick. Nick, it's been a while, so welcome aboard here on Sports Chat.
Thank you for having me.
Brady, you're back at your
Yep.
old spot there.
It feels weird. I feel like I need to have a big pad in front of me right now.
We can get the pad there. I mean, the pad's not that far away. When you're on the other, I guess, 2-3 weeks ago now, was it odd sitting on this side here? Or?
It was. I'm so used to sitting where Nick is that it feels weird sitting here too. I'll be honest.
I know there's a couple times when I was sitting over there a few times there with Jeff when we had guests on and all that. It was weird, just sitting more closer to Jeff and all that there. I'm like, I like the distance.
Yeah, being able to look across.
This is like my stationary.
Yeah.
There's a few times I'll sit over there when we're not even recording, and it's just weird sitting or just standing there. So this is it's almost like being a left-handed hitter. And if you're on the right side, it's just foreign. You feel like you're gonna mess up and you maybe read off cooking recipes instead of like talking sports. I don't know. So that's just my analogy with that there. But Nick, what have you been up to since the last time you were on Sports Chat?
Enjoying summer, working, all the normal things, trying to soak up the sun as much as I can.
Yes. Brady, any updates with the South Penn?
We are officially the 4 seed, and we will be playing New Oxford in a 3-game series starting Thursday, and then Game 2 Saturday, Game 3 Sunday. So if we move on, we'll go play Hagerstown. Well, assuming they beat, I think it's whoever the 8 seed. I think Frederick might be the 8 seed.
Okay. I thought, is it just me, or does the season, is it ending sooner, or is it about this time frame when the regular season ends?
No, this is about when
Okay.
It might even be later, to be honest, because I think last year the second round of the playoffs was, or no, I think it's right on time. Yeah.
Okay,
So-
yeah, because it's probably right on that cue of when training camp and all that starts, for high school football and all that there. So it's right on that timeline. With that, we can head right into Shining Star.
I'll start us off. I have a Cavaliers guard, Malik Thomas. He was supposed to be a top 20 pick on most boards, and like the big board had him in the top 20, but he fell out of the first round, went 34th overall to Cleveland, and he is proving to people why he was in the top 20. With the averaging 28.3 points per game, which leads the summer league, along with 4.3 assists and 2.7 steals. It means Coach Cal guard, so you really can't go wrong with that. And he's showing people why he should have been in the top 20.
I like that. And Nick, where are you going with your Shining Star? There's a reason why we're doing Shining Star first. I know typically we do Shining Star with the positivity, but you'll see why we're doing Shining Star, because a hot seat is flaming hot. I will say, consensus will say it's flaming hot.
Corey, I went a little different direction. I thought Jordan Walker was a little too on the nose.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little too there. I kind of went with more of a player archetype than a specific guy.
Yeah.
The post-hype breakout. And I think it's a baseball-specific thing where like players who are really highly touted prospects kind of struggle early in their career, and then later on down the line figure it out. And I just think it's such a cool thing that really only happens in baseball, because if you stink in the NFL for 2 seasons, you're out of the NFL.
Yeah.
You're out of it. But with baseball, it's such a long game that guys like Jordan Walker, and I highlight another guy, Mickey Moniak with the Rockies this year, they have the opportunity later on in their careers to like really revitalize their career and have become consistent big league players. And Jordan Walker is the poster child for that.
Yes. I like how you arc that, not talking about the home run derby itself there, but just the way that he is having a, phenomenal first half of the season.
Yeah.
Where he was at last year and where he's at now, I think, what is that old adage? You have to get like 1,000 ABs or maybe 500 ABs to kind of really get the footing in place of where you're at.
Yeah.
You don't really get that in other sports. It's what you're saying with football. It's, hey, as a quarterback or running back, wide receiver, the skill positions, if you're not producing, you're either going to be on the bench or you're going to get cut. Baseball, you have that, I wouldn't say longer leash there, but if you're not executing, you get sent down or you get designated for assignment, but you have a longer with staying there. So that's a great pull there with Walker. And I'm going to keep the baseball trend going. It's going to be a heavy baseball topic today. I'm going to go with the MLB draft, and St. Louis drafted Tegan Kuhns, starting pitcher from Gettysburg. He finished his second season with the Tennessee Volunteers. He went 5-5, logged 81 innings, but he did pitch in the Cape Cod League. I think he pitched a couple outings there, which he had a stellar ERA. So see what happens with Tegan. I think he is at a spot with the Cardinals being a team that develops well with pitching. So I think if he would have went somewhere else, I think it would have been I wouldn't say an uphill battle, but it would have been tougher to get to the majors. When do you see him kind of reaching that pinnacle of being in the majors? Do you think 2028, 2020? We're seeing a lot of these prospects, drafted players, making the big leagues quick. Look at the 2024 draft, and so many of the top 15 guys are already in the big leagues. So
I think it's different for every guy. Development's, not a linear process for anybody. But I think anytime, especially as a pitcher, when you have an organization that values defense, you're going to have success. And they've done a really good job of the Cardinals. Have done a really good job of maximizing the talent of their pitchers and kind of hiding their flaws in the strengths of their defense. So I think for a guy like Tegan, who mentioned had a little bit of fastball trouble at times during the season, I think that's something the Cardinals are going to work with him well on and get him to a point where he can impact the big league club in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah, I think at least by 2029 we'll see him.
At least get a shot.
And like Nick mentioned, the fastball troubles. I think they got to work on developing a second and third pitch, and if that's quick, he might go up quicker, and if it's not, his development's going to take a little bit longer. So.
So I guess another shining star out there is Tristan Peters. Got the cycle last Friday, and he got the home run and the triple in the same inning. So
wore the shirt to honor him.
That's So he is the first former Banana to hit the cycle.
Yes, sir.
I would believe so.
I have to imagine.
And also, the last time a player had 2 of the 4 to get the cycle was Felix Pie, which, what a name there. I kind of forgot about that cycle there. So that was in 2009, and then he's also the 5th player to achieve it, batting 9th in the batting order. That's going back to 1900 stats there. So that's just impressive, because the 9th guy in the batting order is not going to get 5 at bats usually, but when you win 14-1, you get those opportunities there. So that is the positivity of the show. So now let's go to the negative. So do you want me to start out, because I have nothing with the home run derby?
You can go ahead.
All right, I'll start out with this hot seat there. I'm going to go with the Washington Nationals. Coming into this game, or coming into the series against the Yankees, they were 2 games above 500, and they got swept. And their bullpen has been atrocious. They have 27 blown saves. The record for the season is 37, which at this rate, with 60 games left of the season, that will probably be broken. But they had a lead in the 8th inning or later in all 3 games, and you just blow it away. And they were a team that was getting closer. I didn't think they were going to be like a playoff team, but contending. But you can't drop 3 of these games and have 27 blown saves in a season. They seem like maybe a team contending in 2027, 2028.
Especially if they can keep this their offense going, because I think they have like top 5 numbers and a lot of stats in the for hitting wise. But obviously, if you don't have the bullpen to back it up, you're not going to win many games.
The only counterpoint with that is you're going to get some of these players that are going to be, soon be restricted, or the free agents testing the market there with Abrams and Wood there. So that's where it's like, their window is still open, but you can't let loose with some of these losses there.
I have a very small hot take that this might have actually been a good thing for this team. Because I've seen them rumored in a lot of things with mock trades, buying, wanting to be big buyers. And as cool as the storylines are, as talented as a lot of players are, I think when you watch them play and you look at that roster, that is not a playoff roster.
No. It's good. I think if they end the season with 75 wins and kind of flirt with that 81 wins, I think that's the right way. But
I think if this team had won half those games or goes on a little streak here right before the trade deadline, some interesting decisions could get made.
I think another team that's, what we're kind of hitting towards is the Marlins. They said they're not going to trade Sandy Alcantara. They're basically all in. They're trying to go for it, but they lost, 3 games going into the All-Star break there. So I look at both those teams as a young team. I think maybe the Marlins will probably trade too many, which it's kind of weird to say them trading and being buyers, but I think I look at the Marlins as almost the same as the Nats, but,
I think the difference for me is their pitching infrastructure is so much better than the Nationals. And if you remember either last year or the year before when Peter Bendix, their GM, executed that phenomenal sell at the deadline, which they were in a decent spot, so people were kind of upset. But it brought back in so many different players that just completely changed their system. I've got a lot of faith in him doing a good job at this deadline, regardless of which way they go.
Oh, yeah. It's good to see the Marlins playing some good baseball. I think they're going to fall up short of the wild card. I mean, they were like 3 games back from the Braves, but I'm like, I just didn't think they had the pieces to even be buyers enough to, take that division. I mean, it's not like they ever won the division before. All the times that they won the World Series, they were a wild card team there. So, Brady, what's your
Mine's
hot seat?
Tailing off that, it's just the AL version. In my opinion, it's the Athletics. They lost 9 in a row heading into the All-Star break when they were in the middle of a tight divisional race, and the AL wild card is just a mess. Another team that I think isn't quite ready yet, but it was nice to see like the young guys playing well and everything. So, like Nick said, this might actually be good for them in the long run, but still not ideal.
I think they're definitely building for 2028 once they're in Vegas. Getting the core pieces. I mean, their infield is basically locked in.
Yeah.
So looking at that standpoint, they were right up there with that wild card spot for the longest time. Either 1 game up, 1 game down, around that 500 play there. But right now, 41 and 55, 14 games under 500. They're going to be sellers, and they're going to be selling expiring contracts.
Yeah.
They're not going to sell. Do you think if a team out there that wants Luis Severino, do you think they'll trade Severino? I don't see a market for Severino, but
it'd have to be good prospects if they do.
I don't see why not. Honestly, I don't see anybody when I watch those games, like an Athletics game, like in that pitching staff, that I'm like, yeah, they should hold on to him. Like if somebody wants to take a chance on an Athletics arm, I would ship them off, in my opinion.
except for the prospects, I think Gage Jump is probably
Yes, of course.
Yes.
You're right. Yeah.
That example you keep. Anybody else aging or expiring deals, trade. Same with the bullpen there. So, great call there with the Athletics. And that brings us to the scorched ring hot one. Nick, you want to just put it on the tee and let the viewers know?
My hot seat is Major League Baseball for putting the Home Run Derby on Netflix. especially in the middle of the ongoing CBA negotiations where you want to get the fans on your side. They chose to put one of the most fun events behind a paywall and just royally piss off all of MLB's fans. It's such a cool event. They did new things with the rules. They're trying to get fans engaged and make it awesome. And then they say, hey, you got to pay $9 to watch it. I thought it was terrible. I thought it was, for an event that has always been free and always should be free, you throw it behind a paywall and make the average MLB fan, if you don't have a Netflix account, you're dropping money. If you do have a Netflix account, you have to sit through all of their commentators doing an interesting job, to say the least. I thought it was just a complete fumble of an operation by Major League Baseball.
I mean, speaking of people that were upset, my grandma sent me a text, trying to find the home run derby. She's so used to being on ESPN. I'm like, well, it's on Netflix, and you don't have Netflix, so I'm sorry.
Just out of luck.
I didn't
you
even
get to see the replay.
Yeah, I didn't even find out it was on Netflix till the day of, and then like I went on ESPN. I was like, it's not on here. And I looked it up, and I saw it was on Netflix. Like,
What was on ESPN last night?
I think Summer League.
All right, yeah. So that's where we have come.
Yeah.
Summer League basketball, and now not the home run derby. But so let's talk about the derby itself. There, the good, the bad, the ugly. And let's go with the ugly first. You're talking about the commentators. It was just very choppy. It was just, you don't need a lot for a commentary for a home run derby. Just give us, maybe not the back, it's gone, but, just give us like, all right, this guy's, on a roll. He has hit 4 home runs in a row, this, that. It's very easy stuff. The camera, horrific.
Terrible.
You're zooming in on the hitter, but we don't see the swing. But then we see a ball that's up in the air. We don't know whether it's going to be gone, but it's in the outfield and center field. That's nowhere even close to being a home run.
Yeah, you change the format to prioritize being able to enjoy each home run, and then you can't see it.
No.
So what's the point?
And they're just going back and forth with the camera, going down, up, and then the field camera to zooming in on, guys that's not even participating in the home run derby. So it's, that aside with Netflix, with that, I give them a grade of a D, just because it just wasn't spectacular, But do you have any awful points there with
I mean,
derby?
I think that I understand like the magenta and gray ball.
Yeah, for T-Mobile.
I understand it. They've done that in home run derbies in the past, but I think there was a couple instances where they just threw the regular ball.
Yes.
So it's like, and like the one announcer did do a good job in pointing out that actually messes with the hitter. Like if you're expecting a magenta and gray ball and you get like a white one, it's gonna mess you up. So I mean, tweaking that, and maybe the only other thing would be like put a limit on the amount of pitches you can take. But then again, you can't really do that, so it's tough.
Yeah, because most of these guys aren't pitchers.
Yeah.
It looks like most of them were fathers, that
Yeah.
were pitching, or just guys that do BP. Bryce Harper
Had a
BP,
Dodgers guy. Yeah.
The Dodgers got approval with that there. So taking the pitch would be a little challenging, just because
Yeah.
it's you want a good pitch.
Yeah.
Going away from the time aspect was great.
I agree.
Seeing a home run and not feeling rush, because I don't know what the percentage is of guys that get hurt afterwards because of bleaks and all that there, because they're rushing in that final run. Because it feels like last year and then the years past, it was almost as soon as it gets clear the fence, all right, here's the pitch.
Yeah.
So sometimes you're not getting a good amount of quality of the pitches because they're rapid fire. So
Yeah.
I think there's the thing of the balance of how many pitches and how long it took, because it's not like the 10-out rule. It's not anything like that there. You're just swinging.
Yeah.
And it took until the final round until we saw a magenta ball as a home run.
That was interesting.
I remember the commentator, I think it was Rizzo, was saying like, well, whoever hits the home run, the pink ball will win the Derby. Well, they both went off. But
Yeah.
now the good, I would say, is the format. I love the format. I think it just needs to be tweaked just a little bit there. I just love just the interaction when Wilson Contreras was being the villain. Just playing that up, and there's some times where I didn't know where the ball was going, but the fans were just booing like crazy. I'm like, well, this is not a home run because clearly it's not going to go anywhere, but the camera's not remotely towards anything. You just hear the boos. So seeing that, all in all, seeing the home run derby itself was fine. It was great, but the production, not so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the production was subpar. I think the actual performance was really good. I was very entertained by it, especially at the end. Like you said, Contreras playing the villain. I mean, this is a guy who's very emotional. He's been on the news week after week for getting into skirmishes in the middle of games over a lot of times seemingly nothing. But he was so much fun to watch. And watching him play the villain in Philly was so cool, and it made me immediately think that, okay, if Boston doesn't make a push for the playoffs, I want to see this guy in the playoffs in an away stadium, living up to all the hype and getting booed and making plays. That just got me fired up.
It was just going into the Derby, I didn't know whether going first was going to be an advantage or going last was an advantage. Because when Murakami had 9 home runs, I felt, there's no way he's going to, make it to the next round.
Yeah.
He didn't, but he just barely missed out. You had the last round being, Schwarber hitting 10, just barely getting 10, and then you have Harper that just, if he gets 11, he's going to dethrone his teammates.
Yeah,
so at the end, it was you either going to get you're only get one Philly in the semis, where it seemed like you're going to get 2, but it's just the way the things were playing out then too. So. It'll be interesting to see how the next couple years, because they always tweak it some way, shape, or form there. Before we change gears to other spots there, are you okay with a participant that's not in the Derby, or a participant in the Derby that's not an all-star? Are you okay with that? Because Jack Caglione...
I would say so. I mean... Because you think about it, most of the stars, if they've done the home run derby before, they don't feel like they don't need to. And it also gives a chance for some other guys who maybe all they have is power. Caglione's kind of one of those guys. I mean, he's playing better this year, but it gives a chance to introduce you to new players as well. Just the hype won't be there, but I think it's okay.
I was a little in between. I think once you get to the line of trying to figure out the roster, because typically you want 4 in the AL, 4 in the NL, and then when you have 2 Phillies, I think they were running out of options.
Yeah.
So I think that's why they went with Caglione. I think, was he the only non-All-Star that was?
I think so.
Yeah.
Murakami made it, correct?
I think he's in the All-Star game.
Then, yeah.
As a
Contreras is
replacement,
as well?
I think Contreras made it as a backup.
Yes.
Okay.
But yeah. I'm okay with it for sure. One, I like the idea of young guys getting recognition, getting money as well. I know Jordan Walker is an all-star this year, but he's making more. He gets the $1 million prize. That's more than his salary is for this season. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think that's
With
a really
taxes
cool
and all that
aspect.
there, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is I love the home run derby. I think it's a really cool event, but it's highlighting one specific skill of baseball. It's nothing like an actual baseball game.
Yeah.
So I think we should have the guys who excel at that skill go out there and do their thing, and that's why I think it's okay how it is.
Yeah. I really don't watch the other skill all-star games. Football, that's nothing. You got hockey. That's a little different with the skills and, what they do. And then basketball, you had the dunk contest, but that really has got watered down over the years. And for baseball, you're not going to do anything else. It's just going to be the Derby. You're not going to have a picture be like, well, I'm going to throw my curveball and try to get in the strike zone
Yeah.
and have a competition with that. You're not going to have a bunting competition, and you're not going to have a stealing competition. You're not going to have the fastest guy running. So,
Yeah.
looking at this, I'm fine with that. And then, I mean, the Derby is the Derby. It sells itself, and
Yeah.
that's, I think looking at the All-Star game and the Home Run Derby, I think I'm more excited just watching the Derby than the game itself. I think the game has its novelties, but if I had to choose, I'd probably just go with the Derby.
I would agree.
I have to agree. I think people get more intrigue out of the arguing about who should and shouldn't be on the All-Star game than actually like watching the game.
Because, I mean, we talk about this ad nauseum, who's going to be the Oriole All-Star, this and that. But I think it's more of like a badge of honor than playing in the game itself.
Yeah.
I agree.
Like, hey, I was a 5-time All-Star player. You don't
Yeah.
know what happened in the
Yeah,
game.
no one cares.
It
if you
only
didn't get a
matters
hit.
if you win the MVP.
Yeah,
So.
I agree.
Yeah. So you look at, all right, you put up a great stats in the first half. That's how I look at it. You were one of the greats in the first half, or you were the great on your team. If
Yeah.
you're the representative of that team that only had one player. So that's how I look at it. Tonight's game, I will watch it, but I don't really, I like to see American League win, but it's just one of those see what happens and all that there. And then pictures will only go one inning. And then
Yeah.
half the time, some of the pitchers won't even pitch. I was disappointed. I thought we were going to see Mizorowski, but I understand. You're in a playoff race, and that's the other thing is you're not going to see, the big guys pitch. If they don't have to, they're not going to pitch.
Yeah.
If you would have told me at the beginning of the season that, Dylan Cease and Sanchez was going to be your two starting pitchers, I would have been a little surprised, but
Yeah.
it's not a bad matchup. It's just not,
Yeah.
what everyone was anticipating, especially being in Philadelphia. Sanchez, it was an easy layup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, changing gears a little bit there, I guess, do you want to talk about second half previews, or do you want to go elsewhere?
Okay, whatever.
Well, I guess before we do that, we can do the ET tracker. I know everyone loves the ET tracker, and we are at 70. Notable ejection, New York manager Aaron Boone got ejected for waiting too long for a replay review. Now, Aaron Boone ties Derek Shelton with 3 ejections in the AL. And looking at it, Aaron Boone has either tied or had the most ejections in the American League dating back to 2021. So, he's been helping this ET tracker there. So, 70 at the break, and I think it's going to be a little over 110. I think it's going to be probably about 112 is going to be the final number.
What was the preseason
I said
prediction?
142.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I didn't really, take note of the ABS. I didn't
Oh,
put that
yeah,
in my
that's fair.
calculations there because, I was looking at that was going to, be a rough or, a little, people
Yeah.
like, hey, I tapped the helmet. This, I thought we were going to get a little bit more of that. It's been a little bit more tame. But we could have a couple brawls, in August.
And tempers flare as the playoff push goes on.
Absolutely.
So,
So I think that number could rise a little bit, but I don't think it would be
I don't think-
142.
yeah.
I don't think we're going to get 70 more ejections with the halfway point already happening, back in June. So unfortunately, I wouldn't be wrong on that there. So went to hit that mark because I think last time when I was doing the show when Jeff wasn't here, I forgot to do the ET. So I got that out of the way. But we can talk about second half previews. Looking at what do you think the magic number is in the American League with it being so, I'm not going to say bad, but just not
Wide open.
good baseball. It's parity, I guess you could say, in the American League. So I'm not saying a team, but what do you think that magic number is for a win?
I don't know because I feel like we're going to get to the last week of the season and we're going to have so many teams hovering around 500 that it's how do the last 2 or 3 series play out?
Yes.
So I think there's a real chance that last wild card team wins 83 games.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean,
84
you'd like to
games?
think 82, so all the playoff teams are above 500. But
Yeah, if we get a team that's below 500 in the wild card, I think that's crazy.
Well, I said this before. When you go to 3 wildcard teams, you have that chance of a third wildcard team being below 500. And a lot of things have to play to that, where you have 2 divisions that are kind of subpar, and you have another division that's, top heavy. And that's what we're kind of seeing a little bit right now within the American League East. But even then, you have just the Yankees and the Rays that are above 500 and everyone else is below. Right now, the third wild card spot is below 500. It's 48, 49, that's Seattle, and that's Minnesota. You got the Red Sox that are playing really great baseball right now. They're on a 9-game winning streak. They're a half game back. Astros are a game and a half. Orioles are 2. Blue Jays are 2.5. And Tigers are 3.5. So I wouldn't count the Tigers out yet, but their pulse is.
also see what they gotta do at the deadline as well.
So I think we're going to get a very good feel of where the Orioles are at I was going to say this time next week, but after next Friday, we'll have a good picture of where they're at because they're playing Houston and they're playing Boston. They start the second half. I think that's 6 games, or is it 7 games? I'm not sure if it's 4 with Houston or I can pull that up right
At least
now.
6.
I would also think that with the trade deadline looming, that could increase the magic number to like around 85. Because if you get those teams that are like close and you're just gonna go all in and try to make that push with it being so since there's so many teams in the running, so like the Orioles could either sell or buy, like they could sell themselves out of it or they could try to buy themselves into it because like they're only 2.5 games out for as bad as they played all year.
The problem for me is when I look at this like wild card race, the teams that I would ID as the biggest buyers are the ones that are a little bit lower down. So to me, when I see those guys, making those big splashes to push themselves up, that just kind of brings everything back together for me.
And then you look at the teams that will be sellers. What do they have to offer? That's the
Interesting
other
market.
thing. You can say the Athletics, Royals, and the Angels sellers, but what pieces do they have? I mean, we talked about a little with the Athletics. You can only get so much bullpen help. I mean, that's what sellers give up is bullpen needs. But
And you're not in the cellar of the league by having a good bullpen either.
that's the thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you spin it over to the National League, and sellers there. You got the Reds, Giants, Mets, and Rockies. Again, unless the Mets really just want to, unload on contracts, I don't really see a lot of, teams out there that are selling high-profile names. And the elephant in the room is the Tigers, and that's with School Bowl. And if they become sellers, that's going to be a very trendy. You're going to have about like 10 teams. Every team that's contending for a playoff spot is going to call the Tigers. Every time they lose a game, that percentage goes up and up and up and more so there. So I don't know. I think in the American League, I think it's going to be 84. I think 84 is going to get it because I don't see it being any higher. I don't see 86. You really have to play almost 700 baseball to have that.
When I look at that wild card race, there's out of the teams that aren't currently penciled in, New York, Cleveland, and Seattle, there's only really 3 teams to me that stick out as definite buyers or should be buyers. I think Boston, Houston, and Toronto all stick out as having enough talent on the roster and enough extenuating circumstances outside of the season to make it worth it, pushing it in. The Houston's GM, Dana Brown, is in his last year of his contract. He's not going to sell off and then end his career. Toronto's too good. They were just too good to not reinvest in this team. And Boston's playing well enough. They've had enough drama with their coaching staff and everything. I can't see a world where they...
Especially with their GM, they're not going to get rid of him just
Exactly.
because they got rid of the head coach or the manager. So he's got clear reins.
I think you have to double down. Like, all three of those teams need to make that push. And then it becomes interesting of who else decides to sell and buy.
I think not to be biased, but I think the Orioles are a very interesting team because you got Elias that's very much, lack of better terms, on the hot seat. Because if they don't make the playoffs, I can see them going a different direction. So I think he is going to be very aggressive at the deadline. If they're only 2 games back, but you have so many teams, that's where I feel like someone's going to get hot. And that, did the Red Sox go to the All-Star break at the wrong time?
Yeah.
Are they going to cool off now because, this 9-game winning streak, you're not playing. Now, are they going to go in a spell of losing? So, I don't know. That's going to be interesting. Now looking at the National League, that's, you got, the Padres 48 and 48. That would be a wild card team in the American League, but they're 3.5 games back. That race is very intriguing because I would say a team outside looking in, I like the Pirates. And it's funny because their pitching has not been good, but if they can go out there, say if they get Skubal, and you got that rotation, that's pretty lethal.
Yeah.
And what bigger addition could you have than a more effective Skeens?
Yes.
If he returns to Cy Young form, I think you need more depth in that rotation. But combined with the best Pittsburgh offense we've seen in years, why can't they push past Miami as they cool down from their insane hot stretch?
That's a team I'm intrigued because they're going to be buyers, only being 2 games back. They're not going to win the division. So if you're not going to win the division, hey, put the chips in there. Being 4 back from the Phillies and 4.5 back from the Cubs, it's not that far-fetched of being the top wild card seed there. So that's a team that's got my interest as a team that's outside looking in there.
Team that sticks out to me is Arizona. I don't think they're nearly good enough. I know they're 2 games over 500. I don't put a whole lot of stock in that personally. I think they're going to end up sellers come deadline time. And with how good Eduardo Rodriguez has been numbers-wise, I can't see a world they don't trade him. I think they should trim around pieces, and I think they could really set the tone for the deadline.
That's a good point. What do you think, Brady?
Mine was going to be the Padres, which you already touched on that. It's hard to imagine a world where they missed the playoffs, and they're so far out. Like you said, in the American League, they'd be in by a lot. Now they're, 3.5 out?
3.5 games back there.
Yeah, that would be the team that I have my eye on, just because they have all that talent, and if Manny starts putting it together, that could equate to a couple more wins.
This is a GM for the Padres that does not just, sit on the sideline, during deadline day. If they're out of it, he will sell.
Yeah.
And, he does not care about prospects.
No.
Just like, some teams care about draft picks, he does not care about prospects. He cares about prospects, but, if it means to go to the next level and be a better team in 2027, 2028, he will do it. So that's a team that's interesting. Disappointing that they're 48 and 48 because with their roster, they should be a lot better.
Yeah.
Run differential, which I'm not a big component of a run differential because if you're getting blown out, you're getting blown out. But they should be in the green. They're negative 43. That's,
It's a little concerning.
even with having Mason Miller, if you're not winning games, having a bullpen arm at the end of the game doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So they're not going to fire their skipper. He's on his first year, but it's definitely a regression of where they were supposed to be.
Yeah.
My concerns with San Diego are honestly similar with Baltimore. They're both going to be interesting around deadline time because they both have two, obviously, like you said, aggressive managers. But what deadline additions are going to make Gunnar Henderson start hitting the ball better, or Fernando Tatis start to elevate the ball? Like, both of their problems are internal. So it's interesting to me, like, if Henderson turns it around and all of a sudden this Orioles team becomes 500, I think we could see him buy. But if he continues his slide, pitching would be the obvious answer, but you can trade for anybody you want. They're not going to win games if Henderson's not playing well. And it's a similar conversation with San Diego.
Yes. The other point for the Orioles, you see them making a trade because you have Blaze Alexander that's going to be out for a month plus. So that's, now that you have the time to make a trade, that's going to be interesting to see how that plays. But there's always going to be this injury that plays a role in July that teams, GMs will not over analyze, but just, sometimes you have to panic and, hey, my starting shortstop or starting pitcher is on the shelf for a while. I got to get a pitcher. So that's going to be the big thing to see in the next 3 weeks because the deadline is on August 3rd. So I can't believe how quick the show went. I just looked and it's 6:42. Like I told at the beginning, it's going to be heavy baseball, and that's good. We had controversy with the home run derby, so that's what we get. So before we end the show, I just want to mention the current banner sponsors: Adams County Community Foundation, Adams County Sports Hall of Fame, Adams County Trout Unlimited, Classic Antique Innovation, Destination Gettysburg, Exchange Club of Hanover, Gettysburg Railway. To become a sponsor, it is $80 a month or $880 a year, 12 months for the cost of 11 months. To see this, you can go to communitymedia.net/sponsorship. And once again, thank you to all the sponsors out there. And, with that, we have a few minutes left of the program. Any, other thoughts out there, want to?
Nothing really. I mean, just locally, the South Penn playoffs, like we mentioned earlier, are going to start this week. So it's something to keep your eye on if you're interested in local sports. So.
And then tomorrow is basically what we call the slowest day in the sporting calendar. Typically, it is the slowest, but we have Argentina and England. So we do have some sports. We have 3 WNBA games as well, but it's very, not like a college football Saturday when there's so much and you have other events. Tomorrow is a very slow day, so we'll figure out something to talk about next week. But that's what we call the dog days of summer. And then with that, that will end another rousing edition of Sports Chat. Next week, Jeff should be back here on the next edition. I think we're almost up to 950, so we're slowly approaching that 1,000th episode there. But next week, Jeff should be back here on the July 21st edition. With that, have a nice day, and trivia will be starting in 15 minutes. Heavy on the train questions. Good night.